Hello, and welcome back to Nerd News. Today we have a massive leak coming out of Rockstar. We have news on the PlayStation VR 2, it's not good news. And we have a new ban list coming to Master Duel. Still haven't got a TCG ban list, but Master Duel's got its second one in the last month and a half, so that's good. Let's get started. First up, we have Eiyuden Chronicles Rising getting a physical release. There's a link in the description below. You can check that out. It comes with a soundtrack and some other stuff. Really looks like a good game. It's by the same people who made the Suikoden series, which coincidentally got announced for Konami. We'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, that's getting a physical edition. I think it's on all platforms, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on the Switch. We also have Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, release date coming in next year. So we have another new game coming from the same series, and again, the same people who made Suikoden. It's a sort of a spiritual successor. And also, over the weekend, Konami announced the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remasters, and they look really good. The trailer will be on the screen here, but they look absolutely fantastic. I recently picked them up on the PS1. Haven't had a chance to play them, but they look like really good games. I'm honestly not even going to bother playing them on the PS1 now. I'm just going to wait for these remasters to come out, but that looks really good. I'm going to assume it's getting a physical release. Maybe it won't, but I'm sure if not, Limited Run will probably step in. They did do Castlevania and Contra, so maybe they'll step in and do this. And hey, that means we could get a really cool collector's edition. Suikoden is definitely a fan favorite RPG series, so that's really cool to see from Konami. Konami's really been stepping it up lately with the Cowabunga collection, Castlevania, Contra, now Suikoden. They've been doing really good lately, kind of moving away from that pachinko machines, I guess. But we have the PlayStation VR 2. Still no word on the price. We're just going to knock that out right now. No word on the price. So, we'll see. This is actually bad news, though. It will not be compatible with PlayStation VR 1 games. So no backwards compatibility there. They said it's because of the new technology used to create the PlayStation VR 2, although I guess maybe some games can get updates and that will allow the backwards compatibility. There will be no native backwards compatibility. That really sucks because, again, the PlayStation VR is still like $300 on Amazon, so it's still pretty expensive. And then the PlayStation VR 2 is probably going to be $500 to $600. I know that's not what people want to hear, but it's probably going to be about as much as a PS5, maybe more. So for you to need both to play all these games. Like, the PlayStation VR already doesn't have a great library. It has, some really good games, but nothing that's really pushing that $300 price tag to feel any better. And now they have the PlayStation VR 2 that's probably going to cost a fair amount of money, and you're not going to have any library with it, at least not initially. It's just going to be the launch titles. There's no, I don't know, it doesn't sound like a good thing. I think that's going to make the price a much, much harder to swallow pill. Honestly, just for me personally, it kind of takes me out of looking at picking up PlayStation VR 2. I don't have a PlayStation VR, and I was considering just not getting one and seeing how much this was and just playing everything on that. I even have some VR games that I just was holding on to playing. But honestly, I don't see myself picking up a $600 system if I can't play the old games and I only can play what comes out, and I have to hope that something actually comes out. The price is going to have to be way lower than I was expecting, and I just don't see it. I think it's going to be very expensive. This is just really bad as a consumer. I personally just don't see myself picking this up at the price point that I think it's going to be and that it's rumored to be. This is just bad news. Next up, we have the new Master Duel ban list, and it looks pretty good. I'm going to put it up on screen. I'm not going to touch on everything, but we'll talk about the ones I think are really interesting. First off, you'll see immediately the only banned card on this list. We got Christian Halkefibrex. Finally, this card is terrible for the game. It's not a good card. People try to defend it like, oh, it doesn't do anything itself. It just brings out a tuner. No, this card's terrible. This breaks the synchro mechanic. It kind of breaks the link mechanic. And it's just outright bad for the game. This card has resulted in so many cards being banned. It's right up there with Verte Anaconda and Union Carrier, and it needed to go. This actually puts a lot of help onto Master Duel and makes Master Duel much more bearable. I kind of wish they would just ban it here in the TCG as well, but whatever. The next one I want to talk about is Spellbook of Judgment. This is great. It's a really strong card, but I think at 1 it'll be fair. I don't see it doing anything insane. The Spellbook cards themselves aren't really that good anymore. They've kind of been power crept, and while this does net you like a +7 or something at the end of your turn, it's at the end of the turn, so you can't set anything, you can't activate any of these cards, so it really just gives you advantage for the next turn. It's a really strong card, but it's not broken, I don't think, in this meta anymore. I think it's just been power crept, mostly because the other Spellbook cards aren't as good. The card's only as good as what you can get off of it, and the cards you can get just aren't that strong. Sure, you can drop a Jowgen and lock out your opponent, but honestly, you can just walk over the Jowgen. It's not that strong of a card. This really just isn't that big of a deal, but I think it'll be fun. It's nice to have it back for those who want to play the Spellbook Prophecy deck. This will be a big boon to the deck, but I don't think it'll be anything meta-defining. They did semi-limit. I'm not really a fan of semi-limits, but they semi-limit it. Rivalry of Warlords and Gozamech. Floodgates in Master Duel really suck. They're really not great in general. I'm not really a big fan of them from a playing standpoint at all. However, they're significantly worse in a best of 1 because most decks just don't have the native back row removal in them. And when you already have to play a ton of hand traps, now you have to play a ton of board breakers, and now you have to play a ton of back row removal to deal with this kind of stuff. You can't build your deck to do everything. So you kind of just lose games. This is what your side deck's supposed to be for, so you can kind of fluctuate those flex spots, but you can't do that in a best of 1 because there is no side deck. So hitting him at 2, while kind of useless, I guess it's better than leaving him at 3. Red Reboot to 2, I don't like that. Red Reboot is a really unfair card. It seems fair on the surface in that you're paying a lot of life points, it negates the card, but I think it just resets it. But your opponent gets to add a card from their deck to their field, but they can't activate traps for the rest of the turn. The problem is, if you're playing any kind of stun deck, not necessarily Floodgate decks, because that's kind of annoying, but if you're playing something like an Altergeist, you just completely shut out their ability to play the game for the turn, and usually they just lose immediately to a Red Reboot. So that's kind of annoying. I really would like to see Red Reboot just banned, at least at 1, but I'd prefer to just see it banned, honestly. Pank the 2 is cool. I don't think Pankratops needs to be hit. Pankratops is a really strong card, but it's a really strong generic card that no one's going to main. It's like the perfect side deck card for going second. It is fantastic as a side card. I don't think it needs to be at 1 like it is in a TCG, and I think at 2 is fine. I think it'll be perfectly acceptable. And next up, we have a new structure deck announced for Master Duel, and it'll be on the screen, and it is Spellbook of Prophecy. Like I said, we just got the Spellbook of Judgment unbanned, and now the Spellbook of Prophecy is getting a structure deck. I actually really like this. I'm a big fan of the deck, like I said, and, you know, this is neat. I don't know what's going to be in the deck. I don't think a full deck list is available, but they're showing a few cards on screen here. I assume most of the main deck stuff will be in here, but you get the Spellbook of Judgment. Secrets and Knowledge is very important. This just seems cool. Big fan of spellbooks. I think they're a neat archetype, and this is fun. This is fine. Just something interesting that got added. Next up, we have some games being added to the Sega Genesis Online for NSO. We have Elysia Dragoon, Beyond Oasis, and Earthworm Jim. Never played any of these. I got nothing. Earthworm Jim, I've played a little bit. The trailer will play on the
Creator's
screen.
a douche, but
The game is fine.
they look fine.
But the other
I
two,
guess
I
I
have no
recommend
idea.
Earthworm
Jim, but honestly, I don't have much else to say. I've never played any of these games. It is pretty cool, though. I like how they keep consistently adding 3 games to the Genesis Online. The Genesis Online, while I initially thought it was not worth paying for the upgraded version of NSO, I think the Genesis Online is really what's propping it up. In my opinion, the 64 is what's not worth it at this point. And I'm a huge 64 fan, and I just, maybe it's because I have the games, but I just don't think the 64 games are really worth paying for the NSO, but the Genesis library has exploded. It's really looking good now. So yeah, I think this is fantastic. Hopefully they keep this up. And finally, the big story for today, the cover one, we're putting it at the end because this actually happened right at the beginning of Sunday. So right as I started recording for this video, this is the last piece of news. GTA 6 leaked online. These are basically as real as they can be. Here's Jason Schreier pretty much confirming it. The game just leaked. Not the whole game, screenshots, video, pretty much everything. We know a lot about this game. It's really not a good thing. GTA 6 leaking is bad. A game just leaking is never a good thing because people are looking at this game and like, oh, it looks terrible, it's choppy, it's this, it's that. It's a year-old build. The build's from 2021 or 2020. It's an old build. The game looks amazing considering that was a year ago, and we're probably not even going to hear about it until next year. So ignore that. The game looks fine. I'm not showing anything from this game. I'm not stupid. Rockstar will come for you. Do not show any of this game. Warnings. But there will be links in the description below to Twitter. You can also just go on Twitter and look at the trending tab through GTA 6 and you'll see anything you want to see. The whole game, not the whole game, but the whole leak is up there. You can find what you want to find. It's not hard. But the game looks really good. The problem is this is going to be everyone's first impression of the game, and that's never a good thing. This does nothing for anyone. Honestly, leaks in general are just bad. Rumors, speculation, cool, fun stuff. That's always fun to see. Leaks, on the other hand, confirmed leaks, they really just hurt things. They just make everything worse because it's usually not a state that the developers were willing to show the game in. So now fans are getting a bad version of the game that they shouldn't have seen to begin with. But also, these people just put, what's GTA 5, like 10 years old now? They put a lot of work into making this new game, and to have it just put out there in a state that they are not happy with, and they're not happy with it, or they would have shown it. So to put it out there in a state that they're just not happy with, it's never a good thing. Also, they're asking for ransom money on this, which means it's stolen data, which, I mean, obviously it's stolen, but, like, it's probably stolen just off their servers, which, that's never a good thing. Like, why? What are you doing? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. These are video games, people. This is ridiculous. Anyway, moving on to the next part of the story, because this story has many, many parts. GTA 5's source code was sold online. Now, this is important because GTA 5's source code is what runs GTA Online, and that's a serious problem. Not only for the game, where cheating and hacking and stuff can be an issue, but that's literally a $1 billion video game. That game has made so much money, and for them to steal it and sell it, that's a pretty big crime. If they get caught, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Like, it's going to be a big deal. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to try to speculate, but that's a big deal. That's a problem, and this is why these leaks like this are not a good thing. They never help anyone. This is just all bad news, to be honest. And then it gets worse. I guess not worse, but there's just more bad news. Red Dead Redemption 1 remake or remaster or whatever we're calling it, or planning for it, was a canceled game, apparently. I think we've heard of this before, but it's a canceled game at this point, and screenshots have leaked of that online as well. I'm not a huge Red Dead fan, so I don't really know if they look any better or any worse. They look kind of like Red Dead 2 to me, so think that quality, I guess, but again, I'm not a huge fan of the series, so I don't really know. But they leaked online. Again, links in the description that will show you pretty much whatever you want to see. But again, that's not good for anyone, because again, the game got canceled. So now not only do we not get the game, but now we're seeing the game that we're not gonna get, and like people are just gonna be mad that we didn't get it. That sucks. This is just a bad news topic to end on. Sorry, but this is the last thing to happen. Hopefully something happens before I finish editing this video and I don't have to make this the last thing. Okay, and thank you for watching. That was this morning's nerd news. Comments, likes, describes, that kind of things. Sources are always in the description, and I'll see you tomorrow. Probably.